At 2:47 a.m. on October 15, 2023, nurse Emily Carter stepped into an elevator at St. Michael's Hospital in Chicago. She pressed the button for the third floor. The doors closed. The elevator began to move. When the doors opened again, she was standing on the fourth floor. The problem was simple. St. Michael's Hospital doesn't have a fourth floor. It never has. The building goes directly from the third floor to the fifth. The architectural plans confirm this. The elevator panel has no button for 4. The stairwells skip from 3 to 5 with no landing in between. But for 43 minutes on that October night, Emily Carter walked the corridors of the fourth floor. She spoke to patients. She checked vital signs. She reviewed charts with a doctor whose name badge read, Dr. Michael Hayes, Chief of Medicine. When she returned to the main hospital, she discovered something impossible. Every person she'd encountered on the fourth floor had died in a fire on March 18, 1987, 36 years earlier. St. Michael's Hospital is one of Chicago's oldest medical facilities. Built in 1952, expanded in 1971, renovated extensively in 1989. The building serves approximately 40,000 patients annually. Its safety record is exemplary. Its architecture is documented down to the last pipe and wire. But in the hospital's archives, buried in file boxes that haven't been opened in decades, there are blueprints from 1987 that show something the current plans don't: a fourth floor, 42 beds, 2 operating rooms, a nurse's station, all marked with a red stamp, demolished following incident. March 1987. Emily Carter had been a registered nurse for 7 years. She'd worked at St. Michael's for 3. Night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., Wednesday through Saturday. She was 29 years old, competent, reliable, rational, not the type to imagine things. "I know how this sounds," she told investigators later. "I know what people think when someone claims to see ghosts or travel through time. But I didn't see ghosts. I saw patients, real people. They had pulses, they breathed, they talked to me, and they had no idea they were dead." The night began normally. Emily had checked in at 10:52 p.m., received her patient assignments from the outgoing shift, reviewed the charts for her 12 patients across the 3rd and 5th floors. Everything was routine. At 2:30 a.m., she was called to room 512. A patient was having difficulty sleeping. Emily administered the prescribed medication, stayed with the patient until she was calm, documented everything in the electronic chart. Standard procedure. At 2:45 a.m., she left room 512 and walked to the elevator. She was planning to return to the 3rd floor to check on another patient. She pressed the down button. The elevator arrived. She stepped inside. The elevator panel showed buttons for floors 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and B for basement. No 4. There had never been a 4. Emily pressed 3. The elevator descended. But as it passed between floors, something happened. The lights flickered. Just for a second. The digital display above the door, which normally showed the floor number, went dark. Then it lit up again. The number 4 appeared on the display. Emily stared at it. She'd worked at this hospital for 3 years. She'd taken this elevator hundreds of times. There was no 4th floor, but the display clearly showed 4. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. Emily found herself looking at a corridor she'd never seen before. The lighting was different. Older fluorescent tubes with a greenish tint instead of the modern LED panels throughout the rest of the hospital. The walls were painted a pale institutional green that hadn't been used in hospital design since the 1980s. The floor was linoleum tile, not the modern vinyl composite used everywhere else in St. Michael's. At the end of the corridor, she could see a nurse's station. A woman in a white uniform sat behind the desk, writing in a paper chart, not typing into a computer, writing by hand. Emily hesitated. This had to be some part of the hospital she simply hadn't visited before. Maybe an administrative floor, maybe storage. There was a rational explanation. She stepped out of the elevator. The doors closed behind her. The corridor was quiet. The air smelled different, not bad but old, like opening a closet that hasn't been used in years. There was a faint smell of smoke, barely noticeable, mixed with the sharp scent of disinfectant. Emily walked toward the nurse's station. Her shoes made a different sound on this floor, softer. The linoleum absorbed sound in a way modern flooring didn't. As she approached the station, she noticed the clock on the wall. It was one of those old institutional clocks with a white face and black numbers. The second hand ticked audibly. It showed 2:51 a.m. The nurse at the desk looked up. She was older, maybe late 50s, with grey hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was different from the scrubs Emily and her colleagues wore, a traditional white nurse's dress with a cap. Emily hadn't seen anyone wear that style in years. "Can I help you?" the woman asked. Her name badge read, Margaret Sullivan, RN. "I'm sorry," Emily said. "I think I got off on the wrong floor. This is the 4th floor?" "Yes. Are you looking for someone?" Emily glanced at the hallway. She could see patient room numbers, 401, 402, 403. "I didn't know there was a 4th floor." Margaret smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She looked tired, deeply tired. "It's a busy night. We've had some issues with the smoke. The alarms went off earlier, but maintenance said it's under control. Are you with the fire department?" "No, I'm a nurse. I work here. I work at St. Michael's." "This is St. Michael's, right? Of course." Emily felt disoriented. Something was wrong. The smoke alarm. What smoke? "What time did the alarm go off?" Margaret checked a paper log on her desk. Everything here was paper. No computers, no tablets, just paper charts and handwritten notes. "Around 2:30. Dr. Hayes is checking the ventilation system. We're keeping the patients calm. Some of them smell the smoke, but we've assured them it's nothing serious." Emily's instincts kicked in. If there was a fire risk, she needed to assess it. "Can I help? I can check on the patients, make sure everyone's okay." "That would be appreciated. We're short-staffed tonight. Angela called in sick. It's just me and Dr. Hayes, and the maintenance man, but we haven't seen him in a while." Emily nodded. Short-staffing was a constant problem in hospitals everywhere. "I'll start at this end and work my way down." She walked to room 401. The door was ajar. Inside, an elderly man lay in bed, awake, staring at the ceiling. An oxygen cannula fed into his nose. His chart hung on a clipboard at the foot of the bed. Emily picked it up. The chart was entirely handwritten. Patient name, Robert Walsh, age 72. Admitted March 15th, 1987. Diagnosis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The notes were dated March 18th, 1987. March 18th, 1987. Emily stared at the date. That was 36 years ago. This had to be an old chart that somehow hadn't been digitized. But why would it be here? Why would it be current? "Excuse me," the patient said. His voice was raspy. "Are you going to get us out?" "Out?" Emily approached the bed. She checked his oxygen saturation on the monitor beside the bed. The monitor was old, a boxy unit with a tiny green screen showing numbers. 88%. lower than ideal. Are you having trouble breathing? The smoke, I can smell it. It's getting stronger. Emily sniffed the air. The faint smell of smoke she'd noticed earlier was stronger in here. Not overwhelming, but present. Concerning. Let me check with the doctor about evacuating if necessary. Right now, I want to make sure you're comfortable. Does your chest hurt? No, just the smoke. It reminds me of the war. Buildings burning. You could smell it for miles. Emily made a mental note to document his oxygen levels and anxiety. I'll be right back. I'm going to check on the other patients. She moved to the next room. A woman in her 40s, awake, reading a magazine. The magazine was a Time issue from February 1987. The cover showed a photo of someone Emily vaguely recognized from history books. Hi, Emily said. I'm Emily. I'm a nurse. How are you feeling? Better than yesterday, the woman said. My daughter was supposed to visit today, but with the smoke scare, I told her to stay home. No point worrying her. That's probably wise. Can I check your vitals? The woman extended her arm. Emily found a blood pressure cuff on a wheeled cart, a manual one, not automatic. She wrapped it around the woman's arm and inflated it, listening with a stethoscope. 135/85, slightly elevated, stress probably. Your blood pressure's a little high. Are you feeling anxious? A little. The alarm's earlier. The staff says it's fine, but you never know. My nephew died in a fire last year. It makes you nervous. Emily recorded the reading in the woman's paper chart. Patient name, Linda Morrison. Admitted March 12, 1987. All the dates were 1987. Emily moved through 6 more rooms. Every patient was awake or easily roused. Every patient mentioned the smoke. Every chart was dated 1987. By the time she reached room 408, Emily's hands were shaking. This wasn't possible. These couldn't be real charts from 1987. But they looked real. They felt real. The paper was slightly yellowed. The handwriting varied from chart to chart. Different doctors, different shifts. The details were too specific to be fabricated. In room 408, she found a young man, maybe 19 or 20, sitting up in bed. He looked frightened. They're going to get us out, right? He asked. I heard someone yelling down the hall, something about the fire spreading. No one's yelling, Emily said calmly, but her heart was racing. Let me check. She stepped back into the corridor. It was empty, quiet, but the smell of smoke was stronger now, and she could hear something, a faint alarm, very distant, like it was coming from somewhere far away. Emily walked quickly to the nurse's station. Margaret was still there, still writing in charts. She looked up. Is everything all right? Margaret asked. You look upset. Your patients are worried about the smoke and I... Emily stopped. She didn't know how to say this. What year is this? Margaret blinked. I'm sorry? What is today's date? March 18th. Why do you ask? What year? Margaret stared at her. 1987. Are you feeling all right? Emily backed away. This wasn't possible. None of this was possible. She turned and ran toward the elevator. She pressed the call button. Nothing happened. She pressed it again. The button didn't light up. She turned to the stairwell door. She yanked it open and ran down the stairs. 1 flight. She burst through the door onto what should be the 3rd floor. It was the 3rd floor. Modern lighting, modern flooring. A nurse at the station looked up, startled. Emily, are you okay? Emily recognized her. Colleen. They worked together. What time is it? Almost 3:30. Where have you been? I paged you 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes? I've been gone for... Emily checked her watch. 3:28 a.m. She'd entered the elevator at 2:47 a.m. 41 minutes had passed, but Colleen said she'd paged her 20 minutes ago, which would have been around 3:10 a.m., 23 minutes after Emily had entered the elevator, while Emily was on the 4th floor. "I need to sit down," Emily said. Colleen helped her to a chair at the nurse's station. "What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." Emily laughed. "It came out wrong, too high-pitched. Maybe I did." By 4 a.m., Emily had composed herself enough to finish her shift. She didn't tell anyone about the 4th floor, not yet. She needed to think, to process, to figure out if she'd had some kind of medical event, a stroke, a seizure, something that caused hallucinations. But she didn't feel confused. She felt clear. She remembered everything, every patient, every chart, every detail. At 7:15 a.m., after the shift change, Emily went to the hospital's administrative office. She asked to see the architectural plans. The clerk pulled up the digital files. The building had 5 main floors plus a basement. No 4th floor. "Is there a problem?" the clerk asked. "Can I see older plans? From before the renovations?" The clerk frowned. "How old?" 1987. "That would be in the archives. Physical copies only. Those haven't been digitized. I'd need to submit a request." "Please." It took 3 days for the archives to produce the plans. When Emily finally saw them, she had to sit down. The 1987 plans showed a 4th floor, clearly labeled, 42 patient beds, 2 operating rooms, a nurse's station, exactly as she'd seen it. There was a note stamped across the floor plan in red ink: "Demolished post-fire." March 1987. Emily called the hospital's administration. She requested information about the fire. A meeting was arranged. The hospital's chief of operations, a man named David Torres, sat across from her in a conference room. "We don't typically discuss the 1987 incident," Torres said. "It was before current management, before most of the current staff was hired. But it's not a secret. It's in the public record." He opened a folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, photocopied and preserved. The headline from the Chicago Tribune, March 19, 1987. "Hospital fire kills 14." Emily read the article. The fire had started around 2:30 a.m. on March 18, 1987. An electrical fault in the 4th floor's ventilation system. The smoke spread quickly. The fire alarms malfunctioned. By the time the fire department arrived, 14 people were dead. 11 patients, 2 nurses, 1 doctor. Another 23 patients and staff were injured. The 4th floor was so damaged it was deemed beyond repair. During the 1989 renovation, it was completely removed. The building structure was reinforced to span the gap. Officially, the 4th floor ceased to exist. "Why are you asking about this?" Torres asked. Emily told him. Everything. The elevator, the green walls, the patients, the charts dated 1987. Nurse Margaret Sullivan, Dr. Michael Hayes. Torres listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "Margaret Sullivan and Dr. Michael Hayes," he said finally, "were among the 14 who died in the fire." Emily felt cold. "I spoke to them. I believe that you believe that. I'm not making this up. I can describe the layout. I can tell you patient names." Torres opened another file. He pulled out a list. "These are the names of the patients who died on the 4th floor." Emily looked at the list. Robert Walsh, Linda Morrison, David Chen, Angela Foster. Every name matched a patient she'd seen. "This isn't possible," Emily whispered. "No," Torres agreed. "It's not." Torres contacted the Chicago Police Department. A detective named Sarah Mitchell was assigned to the case. Mitchell specialized in unusual incidents, not paranormal necessarily, but cases that didn't fit standard investigative protocols. Detective Mitchell interviewed Emily 3 times. She recorded every detail. She reviewed the hospital's security footage from the night of October 15th. The footage showed Emily entering the elevator at 2:47 a.m. on the 3rd floor. The elevator descended. For 41 minutes, the elevator did not move. The doors did not open. At 3:28 a.m., the doors opened on the 3rd floor, and Emily stepped out, looking disoriented. The elevator never went to the 4th floor, Detective Mitchell said. According to the footage, you stood in an elevator for 41 minutes. That's not what happened. I was walking through the 4th floor. I was talking to patients. I believe you believe that, but the video doesn't show it. Detective Mitchell expanded her investigation. She interviewed every staff member who'd worked at St. Michael's in 1987. Most had retired or moved on. She found 3 who remembered the fire. One was a security guard named Thomas Reed, now 78 years old. He'd been working the night of the fire. I was the one who called 911, Reed told Detective Mitchell. I saw the smoke coming from the 4th floor stairwell. By the time the fire trucks arrived, it was too late. The smoke was so thick, people couldn't get out. I tried to go up there, but the heat was too intense. Did anything unusual happen that night? Detective Mitchell asked. Before the fire? Reed thought about it. There was something. Around 2:15 a.m., I got a call from the 4th floor nurses station. Margaret Sullivan. She said the lights were flickering. She said some of the patients were confused about what time it was. Their clocks weren't matching up. I told her I'd send someone from maintenance, but before I could, the fire alarm went off. Clocks not matching up. She said one patient insisted it was 3:30 a.m., but the wall clock showed 2:15 a.m. She thought he was just disoriented, post-op confusion. But then she said other patients were saying the same thing, different times, like everyone's sense of time was different. Detective Mitchell made a note. What do you think was happening? At the time, I thought it was just confusion, medication side effects. Now, I don't know what to think. Detective Mitchell filed her report in November 2023. Her conclusion was carefully worded. The witness's account cannot be corroborated by physical evidence. However, her detailed knowledge of the 1987 fire, including names, layout, and specific events, suggests either extensive prior research or an experience that defies conventional explanation. No evidence of hoax or psychiatric illness. Case remains open pending further investigation. But there was something else in the report, something Detective Mitchell had discovered in the hospital's archives. In a box of personnel records from 1987, she found the work schedule for the 4th floor night shift on March 18, 1987. The shift had been short-staffed. 2 nurses scheduled, Margaret Sullivan and Angela Foster. But there was a handwritten note in the margin, dated March 17, 1987. Angela Foster called in sick, requesting replacement. Second nurse needed for night shift. No replacement had been found. Margaret Sullivan had worked alone that night, except for one additional entry, a name that had been crossed out and initialed, indicating a last-minute cancellation. The name was Emily Carter. Detective Mitchell showed the document to Emily. Is this you? It can't be. I was 2 years old in 1987. I wasn't born until 1994. The handwriting is old, the paper is authentic, It's from the original 1987 files. Then it's someone else with the same name. There's no record of another Emily Carter working at St. Michael's, ever. Just you. Emily stared at the document. Her name crossed out, as if she'd been scheduled to work the night of the fire but had cancelled at the last minute. As if she should have been there. As if she should have died with the others. I don't understand, Emily said. Neither do I. On November 8th, 2023, Emily Carter requested a transfer to a different hospital. St. Michael's administration approved it immediately. No one wanted to discuss why. But before she left, Emily did something she'd been thinking about for weeks. At 2:45 a.m. on her last night shift, she went to the elevator. She pressed the button for the 3rd floor. The elevator arrived. She stepped inside. She pressed 3. As the elevator descended, the lights flickered. The display went dark, then lit up again. The doors opened. Emily saw the green corridor, the old fluorescent lights, the nurse's station at the end of the hall. Margaret Sullivan looked up. She smiled. You came back. I don't understand what this is, Emily said. Neither do we, but you're one of us now. I'm alive. You're dead? Margaret stood. Yes, we know. We've known for a while now. It took us years to figure it out. Time works differently here. That night, the night of the fire, it never ended for us. We keep living it, over and over. 2:30 a.m. to 3:47 a.m. The same 77 minutes, again and again. Why? We don't know. Maybe because we didn't have time to understand we were dying. Maybe because we still think we can save them. Patience. We keep trying, every loop. But the smoke always comes. The fire always spreads. We always die. Emily felt tears on her face. How do I stop this? How do I not become like you? Margaret looked sad. I don't think you can. Your name was on the schedule that night. You were supposed to be here. You were supposed to die with us. But somehow you didn't. You lived. You grew up. You became a nurse. You came to work here. And now time is correcting itself. That's not fair. No, it's not. Emily stepped back into the elevator. I'm not staying here. You will, eventually. Time loops have a way of catching up to us. The doors closed. Emily pressed 3. The elevator descended. When the doors opened, she was back on the 3rd floor. Modern lighting, modern floors. Her colleague Colleen was at the nurse's station. You okay? Colleen asked. You look pale. I'm fine, just tired. Emily worked the rest of her shift. She went home, she slept, she woke up. Everything was normal, except at 2:47 a.m. every night, no matter where she was, Emily would feel it. A pull, a tugging sensation, like something was calling her back. She started sleeping with the lights on. She avoided hospitals. She changed careers, took a job in medical billing, something that kept her away from patient care. But the pull got stronger. Every night at 2:47 a.m. On March 18th, 2024, exactly 1 year after the fire, exactly 37 years after the original fire, Emily couldn't fight it anymore. She drove to St. Michael's Hospital. She walked to the elevator. She pressed the button. The elevator arrived. She stepped inside. She pressed 3. The lights flickered. The display showed 4. The doors opened. Margaret Sullivan was waiting. Welcome home, Emily. Emily stepped onto the 4th floor. The doors closed behind her. The elevator descended. It stopped on the 3rd floor. The doors opened to reveal an empty elevator car. Security footage showed the same thing it had shown before. Emily entering the elevator at 2:47 a.m., standing motionless. And then at 3:28 a.m., the elevator was empty. No doors had opened. No one had left. Emily Carter was simply gone. Detective Mitchell reopened the case. She reviewed the footage a dozen times. She interviewed everyone who'd seen Emily that night. She searched for rational explanations. There were none. On March 19, 2024, Detective Mitchell went to the hospital archives. She requested the personnel files from 1987 again. She looked at the schedule for the night shift on March 18, 1987. The entry that had been crossed out, Emily Carter, was no longer crossed out. It was written cleanly, as if it had always been there, as if Emily had worked that shift, as if she had died in the fire with the others. Detective Mitchell contacted a forensic document specialist. She showed him the file. "Has this been altered?" The specialist examined it under magnification. "No. The ink is consistent throughout. The paper shows no signs of erasure or overwriting. This document is original." "But that's impossible. I saw this document 6 months ago. It was different." "I can only tell you what I see. This document has never been altered." Detective Mitchell closed the case file. In her final report, she wrote, "Subject Emily Carter is presumed dead as of March 18, 2024. Cause of death, unknown. Last seen entering elevator at St. Michael's Hospital, 2:47 a.m. Subject failed to exit elevator. Extensive search conducted. No body recovered. Case classified as suspicious death pending further evidence." But in her personal notes she never filed officially, she wrote something else. "Time is not linear. The fire on March 18, 1987 created a rupture, a moment that never ended. Emily Carter was supposed to die that night. For 37 years she didn't, but time found a way to correct the mistake. She's there now, on the 4th floor, in 1987, and she's there forever, trapped in 77 minutes that repeat endlessly. I don't know how to help her. I don't know if anyone can." St. Michael's Hospital continues to operate. The 4th floor remains absent from all architectural plans. The elevator panel still shows no button for 4. The stairwells still skip from 3 to 5. But sometimes, not often, but sometimes, a staff member will get into the elevator late at night. The lights will flicker. The display will show a number it shouldn't show. The doors will open. A corridor will appear. Green walls, old fluorescent lights, the smell of smoke. And if they're brave enough or foolish enough to step out, they'll see a nurse's station at the end of the hall. A woman in a white uniform will look up and smile. "Can I help you?" Most people step back into the elevator. They press a button, any button. The doors close. They return to their floor, to their time. They never speak of what they saw. But some people, a very few, step out. They walk down the corridor. They hear the distant alarm. They smell the smoke. They meet the patients who died in 1987. They talk to Dr. Hayes and Nurse Sullivan and Nurse Carter. And sometimes those people don't come back. St. Michael's Hospital has lost 14 staff members since 1987. Unexplained disappearances. People who simply vanished during night shifts. No bodies, no evidence, no rational explanation. But in the archives, if you know where to look, you'll find their names. On a schedule from March 18, 1987. The night shift, the 4th floor. Their names weren't there before, but they're there now, written in ink that's 37 years old, as if they'd always been scheduled to work that night, as if they'd always been meant to die in the fire, as if time is still correcting its mistakes, one nurse at a time. The case remains open, the questions remain unanswered, and somewhere in St. Michael's Hospital, on a floor that doesn't exist, 14 people are still trying to save their patients from a fire that will never stop burning. They're still working the night shift, still checking vitals, still offering comfort, still hoping that this time, this loop, they'll find a way to save everyone. But the smoke always comes, the alarms always fail, and the fire always wins, and time keeps adding names to the schedule, pulling people back to a night they were meant to experience, a night they were meant to die. If you work in a hospital late at night and the elevator lights flicker and the display shows a floor that shouldn't exist, don't get out, because time remembers, time keeps score, and if your name is on that schedule, time will find a way to bring you home.